Well, I want to welcome everybody to our Wednesday afternoon Zoom. We have a really special guest lined up today. First, about me, I'm Darleen Dozier, and I joined ASEA via Gloria Lybecker in January. How did I get involved in ASEA? Well, it was actually started with my pet. I had a pet that was very sick, but I jumped in, all in. I have a background in nursing. I'm an RN, and I went on to get my degree in exercise physiology. So I kind of moved a long time ago. I moved away from illness into wellness. So ASEA checks all the boxes for me. It's helped me health-wise. I don't have near the aches and pains that I used to have after I get done with my workouts. I have a better gut balance now. I've noticed that is huge. And then the new products they've brought on, Cell, Mind, and Energy, those have been awesome. And the skincare line is another one. So I can't think of one thing in ASEA that I don't love and I haven't used now. Everything has met my expectations and more. So I want to welcome you today and listen to our special guest as she is going to enlighten you. And I'm going to pass it over to Ruth.
Thank you, Darleen. So this is an amazing product that has helped me in a lot of health issues too, especially my mental health. And I would like to invite you to watch this video and learn about ASEA and the background.
Oops, I think I'm going to the wrong one. Hold on a second. Let me back up.
Okay.
Here we go.
I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. I took a degree from the University of Utah, managed some stores for Safeway, and then ended up going to work for General Foods Corporation. I was asked to sit on the board of a small company that had been working on a technology for about 15 years, numerous patents, a lot of research, and they were actually producing a product using salt and water. And when they told me that, they wanted me to go on their board. I said, well, you're going to have to convince me that this is real. How can you produce something from salt and water? And they said, we have a lot of research, extensive research, $10 or $15 million worth of research.
Virtus agreed to join the board of directors.
So I went to the first board meeting and found out that they were flat out of money. They were $1 million in debt. We said, let's see if we can help them find money. We tried for about 90 days, could not. Eventually, the company folded, and they actually merged it with another company, an energy company. When that happened, that company started selling off assets. And I said, I am going to put a group of investors together and I'm going to take a run at the company. And over the course of a year, we discovered what the product was and why it worked. We developed what's called a mechanism of action.
They discovered the product was based on redox biochemistry, a new field of science that emerged near the beginning of the 21st century. Redox signaling is a function central to all forms of life. Redox signaling molecules are created within every cell of the body and are vital to the immune system and to cellular repair and replace mechanisms. As one gets older, the body's ability to make these molecules decreases, a function of aging. The product provided a replenishing source of the exact redox signaling molecules the body creates, and in the same balance, enhancing cellular health. Knowing the product shelf life was essential, Virtus challenged a team of researchers, including Dr. Gary Samuelson, to find a way to stabilize the product.
And finally, after months, he finally came in and said, I think I've got the product stabilized. And we started testing it and found out that he had, in fact, stabilized the product.
After stabilization had been achieved, Virtus met with a group of university scientists.
This is stabilized redox signaling molecules. both positive and negative molecules in the same bottle, stabilized. And they said, how in the world did you do this? So one of the big breakthroughs is the fact that we can stabilize molecules that are, you're not supposed to be able to do that. The molecules in ASEA are supposed to be fleeting. They should all return to salt and water in just a matter of minutes. And they don't. So we decided to find 40 people and create kind of a focus group, and we started giving it to them. We did that for about 2 months. We said, let's go out and find out where we are with these 40 people. So when we went out and contacted them, we found out that the 40 people had turned into 135, and the product had been shipped to 20 different countries. But in the meantime, we had contacted a friend, and he was running a very big pharmaceutical company in New Jersey, about $10–11 billion. And he finally agreed to send a group of people out and spend some time with us and see what we can come up with. So 4 people flew out on a plane. We spread out all of the research that we had out on the table. They started getting on the phone about noon back east, and they kept doing that. At about 2 o'clock, they walked in the room and said, okay, we're convinced you've got something here. And it's significant enough that we will write you a check big enough that you won't want to talk to anybody else. And I said, what's the catch? And they said, you've got to shut it down. And I said, shut what down? And they said, you've got 135 people on this product right now. Shut it down. People have problems all the time, and they deal with them as best they can. You're going to have to walk away. And that kind of took us back a little bit. In fact, I said, that seems a little harsh to me. And they said, you want to work with us, you walk away.
ASEA LLC opened its doors for business in July 2009 with just a handful of independent.
Because she pushed the door.
Today, there are tens of thousands, and their ranks are growing exponentially every month. In 2012, the company announced its entry into Europe, the first of many international steps to come.
My wife questions why I'm doing this. She said, you've retired more than once, and it's time for you to join me and let's enjoy the golden years, if you will. But recently, a young lady came up and she broke down and started sobbing. And she had a health challenge in her family that was really severe. And she was introduced to ASEA. And because of what ASEA did, she was just grateful. So I find it hard to talk about, but that's the reason.
So I want to introduce myself. I'm Gloria Lybecker, and I was invited by Marian Palmer to take a look at this product and this company about 10 months ago. And I was very impressed with the Genesis video. And I also really enjoyed the Real Redox results, where you could see testimonials of different people's experiences, both with the product as well as with the business. And I was really ready for both in my life. And it's been a really fun journey. I've experienced some really amazing results with my health, getting more vitality, sleeping better at night, not as many aches and pains. And the thing I'm still working on is getting my breathing better and better. But what I've most enjoyed, excuse me, has been getting to know the people. I was really blessed to get to go, excuse me, to Cancun. And I saw sitting just across from me and up one row, I saw Debbie. And I'm like to my husband, Richard, do you know who that is? And he goes, no. I go, I do. It's Debbie Wetzler. And I was telling him all about her. Because when I first started, I'm familiar with doing Zooms because I'm a therapist and I do a lot of groups. And so it was easy to think about doing Zoom. But this is a whole different kind of business that I haven't done. So I found Debbie on Facebook through a group that's on there, and her daughter put together the best training, and I started replicating that with my team. And so it's just been an evolution in progress, But when I saw her there, I got the courage to wave at her and she smiled. She didn't know who I was, but we got to know each other and we got to hang out in Cancun. One of the funnest nights I had was sitting at the table, getting to have dinner with Debbie and get to meet a lot of other really amazing people. And so I'm so grateful that she was very gracious and was willing to come and spend some time with us today. And I'm going to share my screen again and show you a slide that I prepared. Whoops, wrong one. Where here's a little bit about Debbie. She's been an entrepreneur for most of her life. She's managed and was a buyer for a ski shop in Aspen, Colorado, and was a wardrobe coordinator in the men's department at Bloomingdales, owned an interior decorator business in Washington, D.C., and she decorated and did many show houses and was featured in the Washington Post and the Washingtonian Magazine. She stepped down from her interior design business in 2007 to help start a children's website. And in 2008, that business went bankrupt and Debbie was left with no money coming in and no one hiring. She found a job as a server in a nice restaurant with 20 minutes break each day. She was introduced to ASEA the day after she received a foreclosure notice on her home. She did her research and started sharing the information in those 20 minutes that she had spare. She saved her home and went to full-time success in 16 months. So let's get to hear this from Debbie herself. So Debbie, let's just have you step right in here.
Well, thank you, Gloria. And it was so much fun getting to meet you and your husband. And it is the joy of being on ASEA trips, because it is, we keep saying it is so much like family. And the people here that I've met all are so full of heart and compassion and just really care and love people. And I just find that so refreshing in the world today, definitely. So it was a pleasure, and thank you for having me. And so that was pretty much my story. The only thing that I'll add to that was the fact that it was Cindy Buck who had called me. She lived in Colorado, and she had told me that this technology had really saved 3 of her really good friends' lives, and that it was a big breakthrough. And so I had been praying the night before for something that I could help people with. That was my first qualification, but also that would help turn me around and restore my financial dignity at that point. Because I'd never had money troubles, and it was very painful. And, you know, as a single mom and you're trying to provide for your kids and stuff, and to not be able to even buy an extra magazine or anything, no Christmas presents, no anything. It took, I mean, I guess it was a great lesson. You learn a lot when you go through stuff like that. And so the first thing I think every human wants to do is validate what this is. You know, they want to try it themselves and have their own. I was already pretty healthy. I was like, I'm probably not going to feel that much from it. And I knew that. And I think Pia has been my hero on that one. I'll just put her up there. She had worked at a university and knew that studies weren't done with just one person at all. So she told, I think it was 23 of her really close girlfriends, and said, there's a product about to be brought out into the world. It can't hurt you in any way. It's kind of like the fountain of youth. I've decided to give it a try because it helps you with all kinds of stuff, balancing your body. Would you like to try it with me? And they all signed up at the same time. And she got to see that this worked within 10 minutes on one person, a day on another, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months. She learned so much from everybody doing it together, you know, and it's not just all about what happens to you, because another person who I love in this company is Tammy Gates, Rosie's sponsor. And she didn't have her product experience for 11 months. So you just never know. But if she hadn't kept telling people about this, she would have missed out helping so many people. And many thousands of dollars at that point that she made the first year. And then she finally had her product experience. So you just never know when you're going to have it. But But so to validate mine, I didn't have that much time. I didn't have a lot of time to get it on people to start with or anything in my 20 minutes a day to begin with. So I was lucky enough to have a girlfriend of mine who was very smart, graduated from Johns Hopkins as a molecular biologist, and had done years of research at the National Institutes of Health, which, for people who don't know what that is, it's the largest research institute in the world. It covers it. There's so many buildings and it covers blocks in the DC area. And she worked in the mental division. So I took this to her, drove to her house that night. She lived in Virginia. I lived in Maryland. And when I put the information down, she literally almost fell off her chair. I just will never forget her face or what she looked like. And she said, Debbie, I've been studying these molecules for 17 years. And I'm looking very surprised. I've never heard of these things. And she said, we've had scientists from around the world come to NIH to try to do this. She said, are you telling me that somebody was finally able to stabilize these outside the human body in a bioactive form? And I looked and said, yeah, because I had no idea it was such a big deal. And she said, you have no idea how massive this is. And these are her words. This will change the medical field as you know it. And I just remember getting chills thinking, oh my gosh, what have we got our hands on here? Because it hit me all at once. Here's this huge breakthrough. It's going to help hundreds of thousands of people. And this is the only company in the world that has it. That's pretty amazing. So she takes this big textbook and she said, flip through that. Every page was about redox. And she'd already had a textbook. She brought it home that weekend, coincidentally, to do extra research instead of keeping it at work like where she usually kept it. And she was the first one to tell me these molecules are so tiny, they cross the blood-brain barrier. And so to stay compliant, she listed all the mental problems that people have, and you're going to have amazing results with blah, 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 blah. But it's the mental issues that people have. And I remember getting chills again thinking, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And she got on the product that night. She's been taking it as long as I have. And so that's how it all started. And the first person I thought of was my mother. I loved her dearly. And she had so many different health issues that I never even really knew about until I went to the doctor with her. Because she never complained. I didn't know. She had half of what she had. And slowly but surely, her body kept healing itself because if she kept adding these redox, and her body was finally communicating. Her cells were communicating, and the immune system knew where to go to help heal those cells. And she ended up with having none of those issues. And these were pretty large issues. People don't usually, especially she started at age 88, and people don't usually heal themselves from the issues she has unless given the tools that the body needs. And so I kept seeing that, and I kept calling all my friends on my 20-minute break. I would call at least 3 a day if I could. So I can't chat. I don't have much time. It's typical Eric Worre style, I don't have much time, but it was true. I've learned of something extraordinary. I really care about you. I'd love you just to learn about it. And I don't care what you do with it, but you need to know it's here because this is a true breakthrough. And it's probably the biggest one of my lifetime. And so people started watching the videos. We didn't have the Genesis at the time. It was amazingmolecules.com, and that was it. And thank God for Alan Noble. And then I'd always have Cindy on the phone because she'd already been to several fly-ins. She knew so much more than I did at that point, and she'd only been in a few months earlier, but I hadn't been to any of the fly-ins. I couldn't afford it yet anyway. So she would answer their questions and get them started and overcome objections. And that's how I started. And I had somebody that was a little confused. Of course, 20 minutes a day is not much time. And I did follow up in the next days. Some days I didn't call people because I was doing follow up and stuff. But eventually I started making enough money that I could stop the day shifts and put a lot more time into it. So by the time it did go for, I guess it was around 16 months, I was making significant 6-figure income, and I was able to quit that job and help my son with his wedding at that point and help pay for the rehearsal dinner, which was my first big goal. And that was probably one of the proudest moments of my life when I could write a check for that rehearsal dinner and know that it wouldn't bounce. So it was a beautiful moment.
Definitely. Wow, that's really inspiring. So, but you were starting the product yourself at the same time, even though you weren't expecting to notice really big results?
Yes, I did. And it was funny. I wasn't expecting much. It did help relieve the stress. I was under a great deal of stress. I didn't want my mother to know where I was as far as money went, and my daughter. I just tried to hold that myself. I didn't really have too many people to turn to at that point. You know, when if you were a good friend at the time and I called you and said, I don't have any money, you'd be like, well, I'm really sorry, but what are you supposed to do about it, right? So you kind of hold that into yourself. And so I noticed the first thing that it did relieve a lot of stress. And then I had a big patch of a very red, itchy, flaky thing on my skin that's very hard to get rid of. And I noticed that it stopped itching and flaking almost immediately. And I was just drinking it. There was no gel then.
Mhm.
And it slowly started getting littler and littler and littler until it finally went away. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Nothing had ever helped unless you took steroids.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, and this took a little while, and I have really no idea when it actually happened, but I'd worn glasses since I was, I don't know, 6 or 8. I had always been nearsighted. I couldn't read license plates in front of me. And one night, my mom's sitting on the sofa. I had a small TV, and she said, can you tell me what's on as far as the menu goes, what's on tonight? And I said, let me get my glasses. And I looked up and I went, never mind, Mom, I don't need my glasses. I haven't worn glasses now in 10 years.
That is so cool.
It is cool.
And
So
that's from drinking it. You weren't putting drops in your eyes or anything. You were just drinking.
I
it?
actually was spraying it. I learned very early that you could spray it. Well, the cases used to come with spray bottles in them.
Oh,
Then they deemed that wasn't, that indicated like a medical,
oh,
so they took the spray bottles out. So we knew we could spray it from the very first start on. And so that's my mother's first, she had a very dry, itchy eyes, and she sprayed it, and she called me the next day, my first testimonial ever, and said, well, I don't know what your magic water is, but my itchy eyes are gone, and they never came back. And I was like, are you kidding, Mom? That's one night.
wow.
And it was just amazing. So I was spraying my eyes because it just feels so comfortable. I love what it feels like when it goes in my eyes. And so, especially if I'm doing a lot on the computer or if I'm driving and I'm getting tired, all I do is spray and it wakes me right up again, goes right into the brain. And so, yes, I was spraying at my eyes, and I'm sure that's what helped my eyes heal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So absolutely, yes.
Well, can you tell us a little bit more about how you got, so you had support from Cindy, other people
Yes.
were helping you.
And Tammy,
And Tammy.
right, and Chuck.
So you were right at pretty much at the beginning.
Yes, I did go to the launch of I did go to the launch. I was lucky enough to have pilot friends, and I called to borrow a buddy pass so I could even get there. It was 2 weeks after I signed up. I was like, I had no idea how I was going to get there, but I really wanted to go. And that, Tammy talks about watershed moments a lot, and that was a watershed moment. I mean, when you heard Vertus tell for the first time how this started, the genesis, because he did that on stage, and they had the lineup of all the doctors and scientists that had been in on this, and people were telling their testimonials, things I'd never heard of. It was amazing. It was just an overwhelming product launch. And Vertus, at the very end said, now I need your help. If you don't go home after all I've done as far as starting the company and getting it stabilized and everything, but if you don't go home and tell your friends and family about this, the world will still not hear about it, because I can't do this alone. Will you help me? And it's just a moment that I'll always remember. Everybody, I think, was in tears hearing all this, stood up and went, yes, Vertus, of course we'll help you. And I haven't stopped once since then telling people about this. I want to help him get the word out. I want to help change our medical field. Our medical system is horrible in the United States. we're 43rd in the world with chronic stuff. And we take way too many drugs in this country. We're one of the top countries in the amount of drugs we take. And there's different ways that the body can help itself heal. And we seem to have rejected all of them. The Indians were very wise. They help people heal, but we don't listen to any of that. And we meaning not you guys. You're different. You think out of the box, but in general, when people say to you, I'll just listen to my doctor, I just kind of roll my eyes and go, okay, see where that gets you.
Yeah.
And doctors are good. They got into this to help people. I'm not putting down doctors, but there's just some things they don't know yet. And they never study nutrition. It's not offered in school, an hour's worth. That's what most of them tell me.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, then you've got your daughter actually is now doing the business with you.
Yes.
How long did that take?
Well, she started 5 years ago. I've been in for 12. So it took 7 years, I guess. And she just kept, she didn't want to do it at first because she saw I was always, she says, like, always on the phone. I'm not always on the phone, but that was her opinion. But she kept seeing all of my friends and her friends that were getting healthy and better, and, things were happening. And she kept watching that, and she kept trying different things and going to an office and being there all day and being tired at the end and being told what to do and when you could take vacation. And she made up all of her own mind, and she put it out on, I think it was Facebook. I need a life coach. I need to figure out what I want to do. And Marian, another one of Tammy's friends, called and said, I'd be happy to coach you. And so she kind of started asking Jackie what her perfect job would be. Well, I don't want a boss. I want to be my own boss. She listed everything, and Marian can finally get back. Jackie, you probably won't want to hear this, but you might want to talk to your mom. She's like, no. So, but she turned and I said, Jackie, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You have to love what you do in life, I believe. And I said, so I'm going to get you on the phone. And it was 3 girls her own age, Danielle Matthews, Alyssa Favreau, and who was the other one? I forgot the other one now. Oh, anyway. So I got her on the phone. She asked all these questions. And luckily for me, it was 2 weeks later that the 2017 convention was. 2017 was pretty impressive because they brought out the genetic study and stuff. So she came to that, and it turned her world around. She got to hear all about the studies and the science. She got to hear about the testimonials from everybody. She had no idea, how much leaders are looked up to, like the first ones. And so people kept coming up, oh, I love your mom because, she helped me and da, 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 da. And she had no idea about all of that stuff because, it's just not there unless you go to a convention.
Right.
And she said, Mom, this is what I want to do. So she does better than I do right now. She's on TikTok, Instagram, everything, and attracting people and telling people, and she's booked nonstop, usually every day, with meetings and webinars and Zooms and stuff. And we both do the 20-minute Zoom because I believe that was a Fraser Books, thought process. And then people in our team picked it up. Danielle Matthews and a bunch of people picked up the 20-minute Zoom, me included. And because it was just so simple. You invite somebody to a 20-minute Zoom, it can be a one-on-one. Jackie does a lot of just one-on-ones with it. And or you can have your people. That's a great way to get people started because it's so easy. Just say, come learn about something in 20 minutes. We'll end the meeting at 20 minutes. So you can get off, unless you have questions. And so you just very simply explain, and I'm happy to go into it if you like, but very simply explain what it is.
Yeah, if you'd go ahead and do that, that'd be a real treat for all of us.
Absolutely. So I have people, say it's going to start at 3:00, and I have people get on a few minutes before, and I have everyone kind of introduce themselves and tell me just a little bit about their background, who they are, and maybe, why they wanted to even come learn about this. And I have a lot of people that say, I don't know, Rosie invited me. She told me to be here. I'm like, okay. That's absolutely fine. But sometimes they have a health challenge or a financial challenge. And so that you kind of put that in the back of your head, like having a conversation. And then we say, because I found that if you tell testimonials up front, people are very interested because then they automatically start thinking of themselves or people they love.
Yeah.
And so I say we're about to talk about something a little scientific. We'll keep it relatively simple, and they're called redox signaling molecules. But before we get started, let us tell you a little bit about what these molecules have done for us. And then who is ever on, say if it's me, say if Jackie was on, she'd tell her testimonial, I'll tell mine. And the host, if there is a host, would tell their testimonial. If it's just a one-on-one, you just tell yours, of course. And you can almost feel them kind of leaning forward going, wow, it did that, it did this, it helped her eyes, it helped her breathing. What is this stuff? So then they're very interested in learning. And then I just very simply, literally simply explain. I don't go into a whole bunch of different Krebs cycle, this, that. I just say these are molecules that are created in almost every cell of your body. And they have two main functions: to turn on and activate antioxidants. And do you know what antioxidants are? I always ask that. Most people do at this point, but some people don't. And then their other job is to allow the cells to communicate and signal. And your cells always have to be communicating and signaling if you are living, because they're telling you to breathe and your heart beats and you don't have to think about any of it because your cells are communicating. And one of their biggest jobs then, since you are supposed to be healthy, your body's supposed to be taking care of cancers that crop up, because most people know that at any certain point you have cancer in your body. Well, in a healthy person, that cancer is, those cells are told to kill themselves off, and healthy cells next to them replace themselves with other healthy cells. That's what's supposed to be happening. But when you don't have enough communication, that doesn't happen. So I try to make it understandable for them. And so they cross the blood-brain barrier. So any damaged cell anywhere they find, and they send a very clear signal to the immune system. And then the immune system goes, wow, okay, now I know where to go. So now I can go in and repair and replace the damaged cells. And because of that, that's why this sounds too good to be true, because damaged cells are anything that you can think of, any disease, any injury, blood pressure, damaged cells, anything that you think of that's off in your body is damaged cells. Mm-hmm. And I think they finally get the idea. And I kind of leave it at that because I know there's going to be questions later. Yeah. And then I say to them, and I'll share my screen very quickly because I did put together a 20-minute Zoom, and I am happy to share this presentation basically. So I'll just do this very quickly. I tell them it regulates literally every system in the body. So the endocrine, the circulatory, the nervous, everything. So that really pretty much covers anybody that anything that anybody's thinking of that they might have wrong with them. And I say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I kind of show them some before and after pictures. And I say, this is what's happening on the outside of your body. The same thing's happening on the inside. You just don't take pictures on the inside very often. Some doctors do. But I can tell them that this happened to Ray Doon in 21 days. And people are always impressed by the neck picture. And this is a very good friend of mine, Dr. Marty Moran. And I said, he's a research veterinarian. And he only put it on half of his face because he wanted the same cells and the same age cells. So he had a baseline. And you can definitely tell the difference. And a lot of times I'll tell the story about how he did it for 2 months and he looked like he'd had a stroke. And his wife told him, if you don't start putting it on your other side, I'm leaving you. So, because it was really weird to look at him. Heel cracks it disappeared and went away in 1 week. Puffiness under the eyes, lines. And, depending, I try to be pretty compliant, but, this lady had a disease that caused that rash on her face and stuff. And within just 2 months, you couldn't even tell she had it. She could have been scarred for life. This man had a skin tag on his eye. their damaged cells. They got the message not to reproduce and kill themselves off. So it disappeared in 16 days. And this lady had the same thing I had behind her ear. And she luckily had Renew. So just in 3 weeks, it was almost gone. And then I always say, this is our poster child, Rosie. Her son was a doctor and he had been in a horrible car accident, and ASEA brought him back. He was able to heal. And she saw what it was doing for her son. So she got on it, but she came back to him 7 weeks later and just said, I feel great on this. I just don't see a difference in the way I look. And he looked and went, are you kidding, Mom? He had luckily taken a before shot, and he showed her, you know, both the things. And she goes, okay, maybe I'll stay on it. So she looked even better at 86 and then 87. And this is her at 90. And she looks amazing. I mean, she looks like this should have been her at 90 and this should have been her at 84. And then I will go over, because you never know who's athletic or who likes to work out or whatever. And I say, you know, this is safe for all athletes. And athletes started calling ASEA saying, I don't know what this is, but my endurance is so much more. I have a lot more oxygen. I feel like I can breathe so much better. And, you know, what is this stuff? And this was when ASEA was first starting. So they did their own little VO2 test on several people. And they found that on average, it raised VO2 levels by 12%. Steroids give you 3% and they're illegal. So 12% is a huge difference for athletes. And VO2 is the volume of oxygen before you hit the wall. So that's why athletes can go, you know, so much longer in endurance. And then they did an athletic study at the North Carolina Institute of Research and found that literally we went into fatty acid metabolism within about 20 minutes of taking it. And that means you're burning the fatty acid around your abdomen and organs, and you're leaving the glycogen that most people use in marathons and stuff in your muscle and in your brain where it's needed. And they can pull on that at the very end of a race. So that's why the athletes can go so much further, and then they recover much faster because their body heals so much quicker. We've got athletes that have done marathons that weren't even sore the next day, which is pretty amazing. And then I talk about validations by all the third parties, and a lot of you probably know all these. I could go over them if you want, but you know, we're protected by patents and trade secrets. They're moving more towards just trade secrets as the patents expire. So it's like the Coke formula. We never know how to make Coke, Coca-Cola. And that's where we're going. Bioagilytics is run by PhDs in the North Carolina Triangle. They test our batches because we say we're redox, because that's what they do. They test for ingredients that are in products, and they stamp our bottles and gels to prove that there is redox. That's what it is, redox. Dermatest Labs tested all of our skincare so far, and across the board, about 20% in just 28 days, improved elasticity and fine lines and wrinkles gone, and you know, more moisture, more hydration. They were really impressed by what this did. Torit Labs is who did our genetic testing to prove that we literally increased the genetic signaling a great substantial amount, 23 to 31% in immune, hormone, inflammation, cardiovascular and arterial elasticity, and hormones. And then sometimes I will show the hormone slide to show everything that affects. And then the North Carolina Research Institute is what I just told you about with the endurance and the athletics, and then Stevens and Associate. When we're young, our skin cells renew every 28 days. As we get older, that goes much longer. But this rubbing the gel on increases the skin improvement by 16%, the renewal, and rubbing the Renew on just one time, one application, increases blood flow by over 50%, and it stays up that way for 96 hours. So I don't have to go out into all that. I'm just telling you sometimes some of the things I say. I do keep it to 20 minutes, and then I show them, just to show them how big this science is, that we've got redox research centers, because my girlfriend sent me this when NIH granted the first one. She goes, look at what we've done. It's 10.5 million to the Medical University of South Carolina to open a redox research center. And then they followed it up with Cornell, and then Wake Forest and Vanderbilt and Harvard and the Universities of Virginia and Colorado and Nebraska and Stanford all have redox research centers. That's just in the United States. And then there's a yearly redox congress where doctors fly in from all over the world to find out what new things are happening with redox. Gary Samuelson's been to several of them. Then I tell them about, this is the last slide. I tell them about, if you really want to do good research, don't go to Google. Go to Google Scholar. And you can look up, there's over 16 million articles on redox research or redox signaling molecules. And if you go to the National Library of Medicine, it's called pubmed.gov, you can type in redox signaling and you find over 37,000 results for peer-reviewed studies done with redox. And that usually, I always make sure it's 20 minutes. I'll stop talking about something if I need to. And then I just say to people, I want to thank you for your time. I hope you did learn something. I hope you found this interesting. But I'm here. You're welcome to leave if you need to leave, but I'm going to stay around and answer any questions that you have.
Beautiful.
And they always go an hour. There's always questions. And that's when I can show more stuff, like the genetic study. I can show a little bit more about that and stuff like that, because I always have it available. It's in a PowerPoint. I can always pull it up and show them very quickly.
Yeah. Well, so at this point, this would be a beautiful time then to see if there are any questions that anybody would like to ask of Debbie. Well, we have her here. If you'd want to go ahead and raise your hand, you can use the little reaction button down at the bottom and it'll pop up your hand and bring you up where Debbie will be able to see you.
And the next thing I have to do is get cell performance in the skincare system in. So you can't ask me about that yet, because I need to, that's what I need to redo with the PowerPoint. But I'm happy to share those slides if anybody wants them.
Thank you. And it looked like Ruth has a question.
I don't have a question per se, but I just want to just acknowledge that you and your daughters, the video that I was watching, the very first, you were my inspiration.
Oh,
And
thank you.
And Gloria had asked me to watch several different videos, and she asked me, which one do I connect with the most? And I connected with you and your daughter. I'm like, this is what I want to do. It was flowing, and you know, and it was like you were working together. I mean, I could see your faces, and you were like relational. And I know that you were in different houses, I'm imagining, but or at least in different rooms. But you were like connecting.
We did one together, sitting next to each other, because she lived with me for 5 months until they found a house.
Okay, but anyway,
So she might have been with her. Yeah, but go ahead.
But it was really relational, and
Thank you.
It was just very inspiration. And I want to thank you for sharing how you do this now, because this is exactly what I'm needing.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there, and Marian Palmer. You want to unmute yourself, Marian?
You said your daughter is mostly doing a lot with social media. How do you reach out now? Because you've been doing this for a while, and I'm sure you've been through your best friends list. So.
Yes. I do a lot of networking. I've joined several networking groups here in Colorado, Polka Dot Powerhouse, which is a national one. And it's actually international. It's in some countries. But a lot of people that I've told that to have joined it, and they're getting success with it. And then there's other networking. So I do a lot of that. When I'm out, just even in a plane, I just talked to a lady, and I gave her a gel. She was very interested. So I'm following up with her right now. I literally just talk, and I do a lot, like I just went with one of my ASEA associates here, and we talked to a grounding massage therapist. She was very interested, and she's going to start taking the product. So I do a lot with my teammates also, but yes, for myself, I get out and network as much as I can.
Thank you.
Hmm. And I intend to do social media more.
And Maria.
Yes, good evening. I'm in Sweden.
Yes.
So hi,
hi,
Debbie.
Gloria.
Thank you so much. That was very, I learned a lot how you do it, and I would love to have the slides.
Okay, absolutely, yes.
Do you send them by email or?
I can send it by email. I think it sends without even having to, because there's only a few of them. I think it sends through email.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
So
I put my email in the chat there.
Okay, let me copy it then.
Okay,
I can
thank you.
gather them all and send them to you.
Send
Debbie.
it to me, Debbie. I can forward
Okay,
everything.
yeah. Okay, sure, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So in the first demo that we watched that was recorded, Debbie,
Mhm.
your daughter had a way that you would wrap up the end of the meeting.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I forgot that. All I'm doing is putting this in an email to myself. Hang on one second. Okay. So at the very end, if people have stayed on to ask questions, we say, well, if that's the end of the questions, most people at this point, most guests fall into 3 different buckets, so to speak. And one is that you find this very interesting, but you'd like a little bit more information. And you'd like a little bit more information. One is that you didn't think it's maybe for yourself, but you know somebody that this would help and you'd like to refer us to somebody. Or one is that you completely trust, I'll use Rosie again, you completely trust Rosie and you want to get started right away. So and we go around again and we have them tell us where they're at. Because everybody then feels comfortable and they all are telling us what they want to do. So if they're ready to get started right away, we just say, just hang on and we'll get you signed up immediately. And then we do it right there on the Zoom and they can see us signing them up and giving us their information and stuff like that, unless they'd rather do that themselves. And then we tell the other ones that we'll be back to them within 24 hours. And we make sure we have their information so that we can send them what they're interested in. And at that point, I like to say, what kind of information do you want? Some people are very analytical or scientific. So do you want science studies? Do you want, all of our studies, white papers, whatever? Or do you want to have an overview again and listen to testimonials and go into certain categories for testimonials? Because people are one way or the other usually. Yeah. And then I can send them to Real Redox Results if I need to. And then I can send them the studies, or I could send them to Amazing Molecules. All the studies are there.
Right.
So if they're good with websites and stuff, that's a very easy one. But if they're good with websites, I can send them there.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you, Debbie. I'm really so grateful for your time and your attention.
Of course, Gloria.
Yeah. And you're just so warm and welcoming. And I'm going to tell a funny story about getting to be with Debbie in Cancun.
Uh-oh.
We were sitting around visiting with Danielle and Lynn Matthews, and my husband and Debbie. And there was some gentlemen from a different place. And one of them all of a sudden just fell over backwards in his chair. And all the other guys just sat there with their arms back and they never ever moved, didn't do anything. Well, Debbie was like, well, we should go over there and see if his back hurts. If I had some gel. And I said, I've got gel. So she took the gel over and she went over and she talked to that gentleman. And he came over later and he thanked her because he was feeling a lot better. But I remember, my husband and I talked about that. I thought, okay, I got to get a little bit more confidence for me to have that kind of confidence, go talk to a total stranger like that and help him. But that was so compassionate of you to do that. And
Well,
it really
thank
made
you.
a difference. Yeah.
Well, when you see somebody fall square on their back and you could tell he hurt himself when he fell. And, if they're open, I always ask permission, with your permission, I'll put on something that will help you if you want it. And he was like, yeah. So I guess he was feeling, but thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like David Silverman, who I work with all the time, he's always talking about get the gel, do 3 times in 5 minutes, that convinces everybody. And, doesn't always turn into a lead or anything. He didn't say I'd like more information, but
Right.
but you never know.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
we
You
found a lot of people that way.
Yeah. Okay, this last call for any other questions, if there are any. Okay, well then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hand off to Marian Palmer to close us up.
Well, I want to thank Debbie and all of the people who shared their stories today. I absolutely love ASEA because brand new people like Gloria and our team here, all they need to do is share their stories and it can make a difference in other people's lives. Can you put the slide up for next week, please? While she's doing that, I'll just say about 10 years ago, I was looking at ASEA and we're outdoor people. We love to backpack and I was ready to quit. I was 70. And when I found ASEA, when Jerry White shared it with me, I could go backpacking. I could do the kayaking. I could do the things that I love. And that was 10 years ago. And I'm still trekking. I go to reunions and people my age aren't doing what I'm doing. So I love the anti-aging and energy and just wellness that ASEA gives to me. So next Tuesday is our next Zoom presentation. We are going to have Teresa with us. Never lose faith in your dreams is her topic. And, you know, unfortunately, that's something that happens in life. We go along, we raise our kids, we have our jobs, we get into our ruts, and what happened to our dreams? So I'm very excited to hear what Teresa has to say. And Jerry, our leader, will also be sharing, and I learned something amazing from him every time we have an opportunity. So I hope that you'll be able to come. The information is there.
Thank you.